to Mrs.
Michelle Candy.
Mrs. Candy and Ms. Henderson for affording the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus this opportunity to exhibit the works of this rich history of this Georgia Legislative Caucus from the early 1800s to present. I'm just amazed at all of the history that's in this room, and it constantly reminds me, and I'm sure so many of my colleagues, which is we have 55 members, the largest legislative black caucus in this United States of America. It reminds us every day of the work that we do and how important it is. And when you hear the stories of the first black elected official in the Senate since Reconstruction, Senator Leroy Johnson, talk about his journey. This is truly just magnificent, and on behalf of the members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, our chairman, Emmanuel Jones, I just want to say thank you. And truly, this will be the untold story of black elected officials in the Georgia General Assembly.
I would like for Ms. Henderson to answer the question, why would we choose to have this exhibit here at your institution?
Well, first, Sister Lucretia, let me thank you. Let me thank you for being the visionary you are. You and I have worked together before on exhibits, and I know that your work is outstanding. When you came with the idea of having this particular exhibit, I was most pleased. For one thing, this is the largest representation of state officials in the United States of people of African descent. This library, the Auburn Avenue Research Library on African American culture and history, located on the historic Auburn Avenue, is the premier southeastern library and a public facility that is dedicated and committed to collecting, preserving, and making available to the public resources by and about people of African descent. And what better opportunity could we have than for our researchers, our young people, to come through this gallery and see some of the outstanding work that they've done. And one of the things that I've spoken to Sister Lucretia about is that this taps the desire to go further. We have a massive research collection here of both books, archives, and every other kind of medium you could think of filled with information. So once a young person or a senior like myself even comes in and learns about these people, they can go much further by using our resources and expanding their minds. Other than New York City, the Schomburg collection, that and this place are the only facilities in the world dedicated to making sure that our history is preserved for the public in a public institution.
Well, you can be assured, Ms. Henderson, that 25 of the legislators have already signed on to make their collections be a part of this library. So you will see that happening on Sunday, April the 15th, and they are very eager to give you their collections at this time.
And I think we can let them know on that day and even on this presentation that we are embarking on a $25 million expansion, which will bring to our facility the highest technologies in preservation and care of materials so that they can rest assured that their materials are safe but usable.
Thank you. I would like to go to Michelle Gandy, who is our president of the Azalea City chapter of the Lynx, and I know that she will briefly talk to you about the White Glove Affair that we have in honor of Congressman Scott, as well as Emmanuel Jones and the pioneers who started this pathway for us. Michelle.
Again, it's such a pleasure to be here today. We look very forward to April the 15th. Azalea City chapter is committed to bringing many things to the community through our National Trends and Services facet and the Archives Committee, which is under the direction of Dr. Lucretia Payton-Stewart, the visionary for this entire process. We are indeed honored. We thank you, Representative Hurd, for being here. Senator Emmanuel Jones has been extremely supportive on all efforts. All of these senators and representatives have been most kind and most helpful in allowing us to use their materials, to bring these materials to this magnificent library here. All of the staff has been so supportive. The Azalea City chapter members have come together and have allowed us to put things together to make this one, we hope, of the best exhibits ever. The White Glove Ceremony on April the 15th. This is an invitation to all of the public to please come out. Lots of information, very educational for all of us. We're hoping that each and every one of you will join us and be a part of this history-making moment.
All right. Just a couple of questions. How did this idea come about?
As I stated to you before, as I traveled across the country, I'm a member of the Georgia Humanities Council. Governor Perdue appointed me, and during that time I served as chair for 2 years. And as I traveled, I noticed there were some missing pages in history. And it came about in terms of African Americans, especially their contributions from the political world. And therefore, I saw the need and brought it to my chapter. They bought into it. I met with the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. They were enthused about it, and we went forward. And I'd just like to say the supporters that we have are the Georgia Humanities Council, the Georgia Power, Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, and the African American Museum here.
Awesome. And it's going to be unveiled to the public on what day?
On Sunday, April the 15th. The ribbon cutting ceremony starts at 3:30. The program starts at 3 o'clock. Congressman David Scott will be here from Washington. He'll be bringing special greetings, and there'll be a special second phase to this exhibit coming from the Georgia Humanities Council president. And we don't want to unveil that at this time. We want the public to see what's going to take place. We invite children to come because their eyes must be open. If you get an opportunity to move around, you'll notice that we're moving from the shackles of slavery to the political dome of the Georgia Capitol. And I thank our governor, Nathan Dill, for coming on board with this also, in saying that it's something well worth for not only African Americans, but all Georgians.
When the visitors come in here, what can they expect?
They can expect, first, to understand that we had 33 pioneers who wanted to make a difference in Georgia. But when they got ready to take their seats, they were unable to take it because the whites at that time, the legislators, because of Reconstruction era, did not want them to have a voice. And it took the Supreme Court Legislative Act 2 years later for them to be seated. But as you know, Leroy Johnson, as you can see there, gave us a very historical point because he was the first to come after Reconstruction. But I also want you to know that 33 of the Georgia legislative women and men have given their stories. So we have a journey to be told. And you will hear from their perspectives in terms of what it is to work in the dome, not only for African Americans, but for all Georgians. As you can see on remembering our legends and honoring our torchbearers, when you look at the various banners, you will notice, for example, Julian Bond sitting down. The others around him are taking their oath, and we know the story. The story will be told. You take a look at the unveiling that Senator Emanuel Jones had recently last month in terms of the marker to, again, bring recognition to those 33 pioneers. So as long as we tell stories, you can say that we will not be forgotten. The major thing for the Georgia Humanities is to tell the stories of Georgians. We have a rich history. We have a diverse population, and we want to hear those diverse stories. No longer will this story be hidden, because again, there will be a very special surprise that our children will know about in terms of what will take place as they remember the history that is passed down for ages to come.
And as you see all this come to fruition, you got to be very proud of all your accomplishments.
You know, it's like the tears that drop from your eyes. But the bottom line is I have to think about those pioneers who stood in the Capitol wanting to have a voice and to speak for the voiceless. But today, their voices are being heard. I can hear the taps going on right now. And as you say, lift every voice and sing, their voices are heard today. And for the main stand, I would say, for eternity.
Also, how long will the show be?
The exhibit will be on display from April 15th to May the 13th. And again, we invite the schools, the public schools, private and public, to come. This is a time that we don't want any Georgians to miss the stories that have been untold, but now are unveiled.
Why is now the time to bring this out?
We live in a political, I'm going to turn that question over to our representative at this time.
Thank you. So much about history, we have been told that if we are not careful, it will repeat itself, and some of the good and some of the bad. In Georgia, we are somewhat at a crossroad. This state was at a crossroad back during the industrial age. That crossroad was whether or not Georgia was going to become the capital city of the South, or whether really Alabama was going to become the capital city of the South. At that time, you had Birmingham Steel, you had, which was industrialization, at its height. But you also had in Alabama, you had a governor who was standing in the way of the schools. That changed everything about what city was going to become the capital of the South. It came to Atlanta. And because of the way we dealt with race and integration, it was not as smooth as maybe we would have wanted it to be, but at least we were trying to move forward and work together as African Americans and European Americans. I give that background to say that if we're not careful, we will fall back to where we were then, might I say, in the way we discuss this whole issue of politics. I think that with the change in the General Assembly from Democrat to Republican, there have been some changes. You had actually before a lot of African Americans who were chairmen of major committees and had even more influence in the General Assembly than they have now. In fact, all of us, including myself, we lost our chairmanship, which took away a lot of influence and somewhat disenfranchised those people who elected us. Yes, things have gone forward. We're not where we were. We still have some challenges. We have challenges with debating things on the floor of the House. We have challenges with really working as one Georgia, not as Democrats or Republicans, black or white, but working as one, and respecting the opinion of those who may not look like you and talk like you, and in some cases even think like you. But yet, we represent a portion of this state that need to be heard. And that, to me, is what has made this state so great, is the mere fact that we have been able to work together as blacks and whites. But that is being challenged right now, I must say. It really is, because of just some of the policies and the rules that are not applied equally to black legislators and white legislators.
Okay. And what impressed you the most about, some of the things that you've seen here?
Oh man, it's just so much. I don't know where to start. I would say, though, that Senator Johnson, really, truly, and he's a living legend and has truly reminded us of the way things were. But also, some of the things that he went through are still applicable to today. And that it's very important that we don't forget that we are here for a purpose, and that is to serve the people of this state.
I remember Senator Leroy Johnson talking about the perception of power and negotiation. And one of the things that I can say about the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, they have an art that I look at in terms of negotiation, whether people feel that you have the power or not. It's the ability to negotiate. And you'll have an opportunity to listen to Senator Leroy Johnson as he talks about the power that he had in terms of negotiation that made a difference in terms of the major bills and the appropriations and rules committees, the different committees that he served on. He gave in his collection to us 13 of the bills that he produced in the Senate that have passed. And so within those artifacts, you'll have an opportunity for children to look at and adults. But more than anything, the public will have a chance on Sunday to engage talking to our representatives and our senators. Representatives like Calvin Smyrie, who's been there for over 38 years. You'll get a chance to talk to Representative Tyrone Brooks, who's been there for 32 years. Carolyn Hughley, who's been there, I believe, 28 years. So we've got some legislators who've been there for decades. And when I talk about legends and torchbearers, this is the time that we honor them, not with a sculpture piece necessarily, but these men and women who go there every year to make a difference for Georgians. So you're going to see some magnificent things coming out as we honor our legends and our torchbearers. Some may want to say, how do you define a legend? Well, Azalea City Chapter chose, with the connection of Emmanuel Jones and Carolyn Hughley, to look back in time and say, how many years have these legends served? And if they've served at least 20 years, they fell into the category of legends. And for our new ones like Stacey Abrams, who is the first African-American woman to represent, I believe,
She's the minority leader.
the minority leader for the House of Representatives, and is doing an excellent job. So again, I want you to meet those leaders, those African-American leaders who are out there, but they're out there to move Georgia forward. And I'd like for my president, Michelle Gandy, to have the last word in terms of the late stay at the Capitol and why we come to the Capitol to talk with our legislators.
Well, actually, the Links Day at the Capitol has been going on for a number of years. The Links Incorporated is a national organization with over 12,000 women, professional women. And Azalea City Chapter is one of the 6 chapters here in Atlanta, Georgia. We had links from all over the state of Georgia that gathered at the Capitol on March 14th this year. It was a wonderful outcome. We care. We want to make a difference. We all need to know our legislators. We're asking our friends, neighbors, colleagues, church members, all of us to get to know our legislators. And for us to come out, take the time to do this, I think it was a step in the right direction.
Now, as you go through this exhibit, I mean, what stands out to you?
Oh my. I think the interviews was something that really stood out to me, because we got a chance to talk one-on-one to many of these senators and representatives about what they thought, what they brought to this state, how they make a difference, what we can do as the community to get better results, to get more involved, to support them. We got a chance to one-on-one find that out, and we can share that with everyone. The other thing was just to look at the photos. A lot of this happened before I was born, and it's so interesting to hear the stories, but to hear people share the history is truly amazing, and again, history making in its own. We are delighted to be a part of such a magnificent part of history today. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.